onto this now. So, Floyd Shivambu has been appointed Secretary General of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party. This follows the resignation of Sifiso Maseko, and the party says will resume his duties as Chief Director in the Gauteng Department of Health. Maseko will remain as a member of the party's highest decision-making body, the National High Command. But to tell us more about his new appointment, role and responsibilities, we are joined by Floyd Shivambu himself, now the Secretary General of the MK Party. Mr. Shivambu, a good evening to you. I suppose congratulations are in order. Talk to us about how you feel about this appointment. Did you see it coming? And if you could, for the benefit of our viewer, detail some of your roles and responsibilities.
Good evening, Naledi, and good evening to viewers of Newzroom Afrika. I'm humbled by the responsibility that we have been given to lead the organization as Secretary General. Of course, as part of the collective leadership that is under President Jacob Zuma, who has assigned us this responsibility to be Secretary General. So the appointment is a humbling experience. It's also a statement of saying that we should play the role that more or less we have been playing together with the recently outgone Secretary General Dr Sifiso Maseko, who did exceptionally very well. And now that he has gone back to government full-time, we are carrying on the baton to build the structures of Umkhonto weSizwe. The task basically will be to consolidate the structures of Umkhonto weSizwe. There is huge interest in Umkhonto weSizwe in all parts of South Africa. And of course, after the 29 May general elections this year, bigger support came from the provinces of KwaZulu-Natal, from Mpumalanga, and here in Gauteng. So our responsibility and obligation now is to expand the organization to all corners of South Africa, but to also assist in institutionalizing the other component organizations of Umkhonto weSizwe, which are the Umkhonto weSizwe Women's League, Umkhonto weSizwe Youth League, Umkhonto weSizwe Student Movements. And of course, there are other propositions that are coming to form other organizations that are fully aligned to the Umkhonto weSizwe. So that basically becomes our responsibility. It is a humbling experience to be given such a huge responsibility, which is not only looking into internal issues, but also has got an obligation to try to work towards the unification of all the progressive forces in South Africa, and then build a progressive agenda which will liberate the black majority and indigenous people from the consequences, the vestiges of slavery, of colonialism, of apartheid. So basically that is the responsibility that we've been given, and we're humbled by such a responsibility, and we commit that we're going to fulfill it with the necessary dedication, with the necessary discipline, with the necessary hard work and respect that is expected of all MK party members and leaders.
Yeah, interesting that you talk about the unification of progressive forces, because naturally one of the questions would be that as you ascend within the ranks of the MK party, now SG, if that is in any way a reward for being able to bring into the MK party some of the senior now former senior EFF members, the likes of Mkhwebane, Mangi, and now, of course, Advocate Dalimpofu as well.
No, I don't think it will be correct to claim that I am the one who brought them. They joined Umkhonto weSizwe by themselves, out of their own political consciousness, out of their own appreciation that they believe that Umkhonto weSizwe will play an important role and that they will make the necessary contribution. It is not my individual achievement. These are adults. These are people who have got huge political history. I mean, Advocate Mpofu, for instance, will be next year 50 years as an activist. Mzwanele Manyi has played several roles. He was Director General at some stage in his life. He had been a member of parliament. He was the president or chairperson of the Black Management Forum. Advocate Mkhwebane is an accomplished individual, a fighter for justice who had been an advocate. He has been a public protector, a very excellent public protector. So to could claim that I brought them is wrong. But out of their own political consciousness, they joined Umkhonto weSizwe, and we appreciate the contribution that they are making and will continue to make in the organization. So this is just act of identification of which roles can be played by who in terms of these responsibilities. And the president of Umkhonto weSizwe saw it fit that I should play the role of Secretary General now. And of course, it is intricately linked with the role that was playing as a national organizer, because national organizing is under the Secretary General's office in terms of the guidance organizationally. We have a structure called the Secretariat in Umkhonto weSizwe, which is convened by the Secretary General and is coordinated by a national organizer. So it's more or less the same responsibilities that we're going to be playing. And then, of course, there are certain obligations that we have to fulfill now as Secretary General. And it's the task that we're going to fulfill with necessary focus and dedication.
Okay, but one thing that we can't ignore is that we did, of course, this week with the news that Advocate Dalimpofu was joining the MK party, also hear from him the revelation that he and the former President Jacob Zuma were some of the earliest people to have the conversation around the formation of the MK party. Just days after he joins, you become SG. I mean, at what point did you know about the formation of the MK party? So there's something to be said about the fact that the former chairperson of the EFF knew about the formation. When did the conversation start for you?
No, look, I don't think there's any secrecy about the processes which President Zuma led before the official announcement of Umkhonto weSizwe party as an organization. He consulted widely with different role players, with Advocate Dalimpofu, with ourselves as well. Before December 2023, in October, he had called all the political parties, inclusive of the leadership of the EFF, of UDM, of ACT, of ATM, and various other organizations. So these discussions have been ongoing. So we were not shocked in December 16 when President Zuma made the announcement about Umkhonto weSizwe. We knew about its formation, and in principle, we had agreed that although we're going to campaign in different platforms, we ultimately are going to converge in terms of the principles that we have to espouse. And those are the principles of saying we must reclaim our land, we must push the progressive agenda, we should redress the imbalances of the past. We must refuse to be under colonial or neo-colonial rule here in South Africa. We must refuse collaboration with the white minority, racist and capitalist system. So that we've always been aware in terms of what got to happen. So there is no relationship, none whatsoever, between Advocate Dalimpofu joining Umkhonto weSizwe and me being assigned the role of Secretary General. It's a decision which the collective took out of its own collective wisdom.
Yeah, I do want to speak about some of the new, and perhaps some would argue not so new now, entrants of the MK party. You talk about Advocate Dalimpofu, I think about Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, and then, of course, Dr. John Hlophe. Some analysts are putting together the argument that you've got now the MK party really starting to build quite the team of legal minds within its arsenal. And just a few weeks ago, Dr. John Hlophe talking about how if the MK party was in power within the first 100 days of the of this new government, it would have moved to swiftly repeal the Constitution, which safeguards the interests of the elite. Is that on your agenda to organize the tackling of the Constitution in your new role as SG?
No, look, let's locate what you said first as part of this otherwise very long question. It's not only legal minds which President Zuma and Umkhonto weSizwe as a whole is assembling into the organization. It's brilliant minds and brilliant professionals and people who have got thorough experience in different fields. We've got people who have led very huge, complex institutions like Siyabonga Gama, who led Transnet very successfully, which was having upward of 6 billion rands profit under his leadership. We have Commander Brian Molefe as one of the leaders of Umkhonto weSizwe. We've got Lucky Montana. We've got experienced leaders, like the person who's leading local government now in Umkhonto weSizwe is Bongani Baloyi, who was a mayor with clean record for 10 years in Midval, a municipality which, despite the ANC's erstwhile dominance in Gauteng, could not take from a democratic alliance, although it was wrong to be led by the Democratic Alliance, but Wangani Baloyi has played a role in terms of that particular responsibility. We've got brilliant minds in the collective of Umkhonto weSizwe. A lot of very experienced comrades who, if they were to be given the responsibility of leading society and leading government, they will do so efficiently and they will hit the ground running. And as part of the broader agenda of Umkhonto weSizwe is to change the foundational principles of the Constitution, which somehow safeguard the interests of the colonial masters, because it protects private property rights of property that was stolen from the black majority and indigenous people. And that is what we seek to displace. And that is the agenda which constitutes a historical mission of all liberation fighters, from those who fought in the wars of resistance, from those who formed the liberation movement in the early 1900s, to everyone else who was involved, even for those who were involved in Umkhonto weSizwe, the Liberation Army. So we are basically taking the baton from those who fought before us, and we are committing as Umkhonto weSizwe to fight until the finish line. That is why in our constitution, we emphasize that we want to fight for total decolonization. We want to fight for total political freedom, total economic freedom, total cultural freedom, total knowledge and ideological freedom, such that we live as a people that has got its own character, its own heritage, its own cultural systems, and of course embracing the democratic principles that define everyone else in society and universally. So that is basically the agenda of Umkhonto weSizwe. The constitution of Umkhonto weSizwe, succinctly but in a cogent way, articulates just what we seek to achieve. It's a lot of objectives that includes the achievement of free education from ECD levels to postgraduate level, which include a variety of other commitments as well, including protection of workers' rights. So that is basically who we are as Umkhonto weSizwe, and that is the agenda which, in equal might and equal force, we're going to fight to achieve for the achievement of the objectives of Umkhonto weSizwe.
And you're confident, Mr. Shivambu, that you enjoy the support of all senior MK members?
I'm 100% sure that the entirety of the leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe supports the decision which was taken by President Zuma in consultation with all the structures. And they've individually called, like literally all the national officials of Umkhonto weSizwe, called to say congratulations, which is not to say there's any achievement yet, is to say best wishes for the future, and they actually appreciate even the role that thus far we have played as national organizers. So all of them are confident in terms of the role that have been assigned. Yeah,
just to get your view on what the steps are to deal with this issue that seems to be still pending for the MK party. There are, of course, there's 10 axed members of parliament of the MK party that say that they want to sue the party for loss of earnings. A very desperate press briefing that we remember them putting together, speaking about just how much they've lost. And now recently reports that they say that they've paid 10,000 Rand into the former president's personal bank account. What are the steps that you take moving forward about those axed MPs as the SG?
No, I think the members who were removed from parliament, the process which politically we're busy with now is to identify leaders and members of Umkhonto weSizwe party who are going to replace them in the National Assembly. But as in relation to the contents of their affidavits, I'm at no liberty, none whatsoever, to talk about that, because that is an issue that is before the courts. And if we speak something that is before the courts here, it can be utilized as part of the court proceedings. So I would think that let's allow the court process to ensue, and we'll clarify that there's absolutely nothing wrong that Umkhonto weSizwe did, and there's absolutely nothing untoward that got to happen. We'll clarify all of those issues when the court process happens.
Right. Allow us to be a fly on the wall when some of these conversations happen. So, for instance, you've got the former president, Jacob Zuma, who is still fighting to hold on to the membership of the African National Congress. What happens when you address that with the former President Jacob Zuma? And is there a sense that the MK party could, work in part with the ANC, collaborate with the ANC in the future as a result of the former president's insistence on holding on to his membership?
No, look, the correct political characterization that President Zuma gives to the ANC is that it does not belong to its incumbent leaders. That the African National Congress is a legacy that has been bequeathed to future generations by its founders as an instrument to fight for the total liberation of our people. And he then says that we cannot just surrender the ANC to its incumbent leadership, which correctly he says has been captured by the white establishment. That is why they see nothing wrong with collaborating with the Democratic Alliance, whose agenda is to entrench and to protect the interests and aspirations of the white minority in a similar way that got to happen under apartheid and colonialism. So he is contesting the ideological content and the character of the African National Congress, that we must not just let go that the incumbent leadership is distorting its historical mission. So that is basically what he's fighting against in terms of the membership of the ANC. And our constitution, by the way, and not because it is tailor-made for him, we clarified that in the press conference which we had to unveil the constitution. There are instances, as Umkhonto we Sizwe, where we will allow members of Umkhonto we Sizwe to participate in some other organizations for strategic and tactical purposes. And that has to happen only with the approval of the national officials. And in the case of President Zuma, we understand deeply very well as to why he has to fight for that membership, because he cannot just let go of a liberation movement, which otherwise do not belong to a Fikile Mbalula or a Cyril Ramaphosa. Those are just part of those who are leading it in the current moment. But it is a legacy which was bequeathed on future generations by its founders to be an instrument for total liberation. But those who are using it now, or those who are leading it now, are not leading it towards the correct direction.
Because it's a point of strategy, right? And it speaks to certainly the strategy that you would employ as now SG of the MK party. And speaking of which, this week your former, let's say, colleague Julius Malema tweeting only 2 more of your favorites remain and the list will be finalized. Of course, that coming out of the movement of Dalimpofu from the EFF to the MK party. Do you know which 2 he's talking about? Or perhaps the right question is, are you courting any 2 individuals from the EFF to join the MK party?
I am not aware of that. And actually, earlier I did an interview with SABC. They asked me about the same tweet. I actually have not seen that tweet. But just to clarify the context of this politics, we are not in the business of trying to court or poach leaders of other political parties. Whoever wants to join Umkhonto we Sizwe will come and join by themselves. And there will be absolutely nothing wrong with them joining Umkhonto we Sizwe. We are not going to call people into corners or into houses and hotels and try to promise them positions and all of those things. If they are leaders of other political parties who believe that they can play a meaningful role in Umkhonto we Sizwe party, they are more than welcome to come. We'll give them certain responsibilities according to their skills, according to the contributions that they can make to the organization. But we're not in the business of poaching leaders of other political parties. So I'm not aware of any leader from any political party who has made an intention to join Umkhonto we Sizwe. If they do so, they will come. We are going to gladly welcome them. We're going to treat them equally like all other members of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Because remember, part of what we are busy with is to broaden the base of Umkhonto we Sizwe with many other leaders, with many other members, with millions of supporters who are going to give us the necessary 2/3 majority when we contest the 2029 general elections. That is basically what we're busy with. But as to what happens with the issues of who is going where and all of those things, that is really not the top of our agenda.
Yeah, but we've watched for a very long time now a brotherly almost relationship of working together with yourself and Julius Malema. When last did you speak? Did he call to say congratulations on becoming SG of the MK party?
I honestly don't think that is part of what our discussion should be. I thought we're coming to talk here about Umkhonto we Sizwe. I'm not here to discuss those things. Personal issues, we can discuss with different platforms. I don't think we can really reduce a platform this important. We were talking to millions of South Africans and want to talk about personal relations of people. That is really not a major issue. What is the next question?
Okay, the next question then, and I'll tell you why I ask it, because there's a lot of interest, people loyal to Julius Malema, loyal to yourself. But it's okay, let's do this, Mr. Shivambu. Let's talk about your immediate plan of action now as SG of the party.
Yeah, the immediate plan of action as the Secretary General of Umkhonto we Sizwe is to work within the collective to establish all the provincial detachments, which are the highest decision-making bodies in all the provinces, and then establish the regional detachments, sub-regional detachments, and then also establish the VD-based branches. In South Africa, we've got 23,291 voting districts, and branches of Umkhonto we Sizwe are going to be organized alongside the VDs. So the immediate plan is to stabilize the membership system, such that when people join, they are contacted on time, and then they know which branch they belong to, which program to participate in. But also part of the things which we're going to do now that we have adopted the Constitution, we've translated the Constitution to all South African languages, and we will be distributing the Constitution in physical copies, but also electronically, to different sectors of society, to traditional leaders, to religious leaders. We'll be visiting them to explain that part of what is contained in the Constitution of Umkhonto we Sizwe is a role of traditional and religious leaders, because those are people whom from time to time Umkhonto we Sizwe party will be interacting with. So that basically is our immediate program. And of course, we're going to institutionalize the already existing MK Youth League, MK Students Movement, MK Women's League. We're going to put proper leadership structures at all levels so that they get to reproduce themselves. And of course, we're going to be listening to other formations and other institutions and structures that are fighting or are proposing that we should recognize them in the Constitution. These professionals who are saying that they want a professionals league. It's a very cogent and persuasive submission from the ex-combatants and military veterans who are saying that they want their own separate organization. There's a very competent and clear proposal from people living with disabilities who say that they want a separate organization. So there's a variety of internal constructive organizational matters that we need to focus on. And that is basically what obsesses us. And in a comradely manner, we will begin to also interact with other formations which we think constitute part of the progressive movements, and then to appraise them that this is who we are, this is our constitution, these are our politics, and this is what we think should happen as part of consolidation of the progressive agenda. And of course, other issues will be dealt with from time to time, but the immediate agenda is to institutionalize the organization from VD level and have all the committees fully functioning at the national level. Because in the National High Command of Umkhonto we Sizwe, we've got subcommittees on economic transformation, on social transformation, on health and education, on safety and security. And all of those committees have now an obligation to draft much more substantial policy positions and programs of action, which are going to illustrate as to just what exactly are we going to do differently as Umkhonto we Sizwe party.
Okay.
So the next major document that is going to come from Umkhonto we Sizwe will be articulating the policy positions of our movement as to what we seek to achieve. But the policy statements, like is the case with all other political parties, have been articulated in the Constitution, in the People's Mandate, which is the manifesto of Umkhonto we Sizwe. So what we are busy with now is to consolidate that particular agenda, not any other issue about personal relations with other people.
See, you're doubling down on that personal issues matter. Mr. Shivambu, we've appreciated your time and we'll be watching your time as SG of the MK party very closely.